99, a resolution affirming the city of Springfield as a welcoming city that respects the innate dignity of all people.
Move for discussion.
There's a motion for discussion. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Motion and a second for discussion.
Are they allowed to give their presentation now?
Alderman, do you want to, it's the pleasure of the body, you want to speak first or listen to the presentation? I think we should listen to the presentation if that's okay with everybody.
Sure.
Okay. If you can state who you are and tell us a little about.
All right, good evening.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Langfelder, member of the City Council. My name is Juan David Bala. I am honored to be representing the Welcoming City Committee alongside Dr. Mariam Mustafi and my wife, Valeria Cuero. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity of being here and granting us the opportunity to speak with you. I know you already have seen the Welcoming City resolution and you have the opportunity to look it over. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of the resolution, but rather talk to you about why it is important to me and why it is important, why I believe it's important for the city of Springfield. Immigrants are an integral part of this country and our community. Ensuring a welcoming environment for all makes our workplace, community, and city thrive and grow. I myself am an immigrant. I was brought to this great country when I was 16 years old because I was welcomed. I now serve as an engineer for the Illinois Department of Transportation, working towards ensuring the safety of the citizens of Illinois, and which in essence is our safety. Immigrants are teachers, our doctors, our farmers, our engineers, our first responders, servers, caregivers, and entrepreneurs. They may be your neighbors, your parents, your spouse, or perhaps a not too distant ancestor. The Welcoming City Resolution simply asks the city of Springfield to say out loud, we see you, you are valued, and you're welcome.
Honorable Mayor Langfelder, City Council members, my name is Valeria Cuero. Supporting the Welcoming City Resolution is the right and just thing to do. Springfield is already a welcoming community. 6 years ago, I, the daughter of immigrants, the wife of an immigrant, was taken in by Sacred Heart Griffin High School. I was invited to my first Wiener roast, asked about my first experience at the state fair, encouraged to eat my first horseshoe. Invited to join book clubs and cooking clubs. I was welcomed. I don't think I would have made it if it weren't for the people who treated me like I was meant to be here. I wasn't met with suspicion or contempt. No one asked me what I was taking, but rather they thanked me for what I was giving. They operated from the basic supposition that I have value. I know I've had a positive effect on my students. I know the world seems a little less foreign to them because they've had a teacher who wasn't always from here, but belongs nonetheless. There is incredible value in having a diverse city, which is why colleges and universities and businesses advertise the diversity on their campuses and in their buildings. But that diversity doesn't happen by accident. Diversity has to be fostered with intentionality. It's not enough to say, sure, you can move here, or you can work here if you want. To be intentional is to say, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm thankful for what you're doing for our community. You make it richer. The Welcoming City Resolution is simply that, a public profession of our commitment to create a city that doesn't just tolerate diversity, but relishes in it. The Welcoming City Resolution tells all people that Springfield is a wonderful place to live, and that our default is to say hello and not to wonder with suspicion what you're doing here. Diversity makes us better. I see it in the classroom every single day. All it takes is one nervous teenager to take a chance, to have the courage to voice an opinion that's different from the majority, to transform the classroom and enriching the conversation. But again, you have to foster that in the classroom as you have to foster it in any city. Supporting the Welcoming Resolution is creating a city where people feel encouraged to be their whole selves, their best selves, and it goes without saying that if we all choose to be our best selves, everyone benefits.
Honorable Mayor Langfelder and members of the City Council, my name is Mariam Mustafi, and I thank you for allowing me to speak before you this evening about the Welcoming City Initiative. Unlike our two previous speakers, I'm not an immigrant, but I am married to one, and also represent more than 300 Muslim families. 90% of the adults in these families are immigrants, And like Juan and Valeria, they are dedicated to improving the lives of not only their families, but of all those that live in Springfield. Over the years, I've been contacted numerous times by those interviewing for positions at the local colleges and universities, hospitals and clinics and businesses. They all had a similar question: what is the city of Springfield like? What they were really asking was, what is the atmosphere here towards Muslims? In other words, is it a city that doesn't just tolerate diversity, as Valeria said, but also celebrates and welcomes it? Or is there a hostile environment towards Muslims? I've been honest. Okay, so we've had problems with a small segment of the population in the past. But by and large, this is a welcoming city. One where strangers volunteer to take housewives frightened by news reports shopping, leave flowers at our door, plaster handwritten welcoming notes on the front of the mosque, and draw with chalk on the sidewalk. This is the true heart of our community. So let's proclaim it as such. We may not be able to shout it from the rooftops, but we can at the least pass a proclamation and resolution and post signs at the entrances to Springfield that proudly announce we are a welcoming city. Thank you.
Does any alderman have any questions of our presenters? Okay, thank you very much. State your name.
My name is Mary Jo Wienhoff, and Mr. Mayor and council members, I live in Piper Glen. I am here to voice my disapproval after reading the article in the paper about what a welcome city would be. My father was an immigrant, as well, I believe, as the mayor's father. His father, my grandfather, brought him and his younger brother over here when they were 17 and 14 to escape Mussolini. He lived with an aunt and uncle, helped out with their store while he went to school to learn English. He began school then to become a United States citizen. He was proud of this. He carried a little card in his billfold that stated that he was a United States citizen. He wasn't on any public funding. He didn't receive food stamps or housing reimbursement. He got a job and paid his bills. I must ask you, are these people that want to come to our welcome city getting link cards? Are they getting free education? No. Are they getting subsidized housing? If the answer to I get a chance to speak, please. If the answer to these questions are yes, then what about the citizens that pay their taxes, pay their bills, and take out loans for their own education? How long have these persons been in the United States? Are they learning English? Are they trying to become citizens? If the answer to this question is no, then why are we enabling them? Nobody helped my father, and he wouldn't have wanted that. He was a proud man, and he worked hard without any public subsidy. If he could do this and send his children to college, then why are we helping persons that don't care about belonging to this country? I sincerely hope that this council does not vote to help persons that are a drain on our economy. Our city and state are in financial straits, and this welcome city would only make it worse. I would like for it not to be placed on a consent agenda. That way other citizens would be allowed to voice their opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, anyone else signed up to speak?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. State your name and address, please.
Pardon?
Can you state your name and address, please?
Sure. My name's Roseanne Polito, 1515 Lincoln. I ask that you do a moratorium right now. An article came out on the welcoming city, October 22nd, from the Senate Homeland Security Government Affairs asking Bruce Rauner why our Medicaid expansion is off the charts. And usually people who come here who don't have any jobs and that, they are going to fall in that. So there are studies here. I'd love to be able to send them to your offices so we can do a little research on this and just put it on the back burner. The other thing is, in New Jersey, following a plea from some citizens, aldermen narrowly voted to participate in the Welcome Initiative. And the mayor said, we are not endorsing the agenda having to deal with illegal immigration or amnesty, but we want to make Gate City a welcoming city. Some aldermen expressed concerns about the organization. Who's behind this, folks? Describing it as an advocacy group for refugee settlements and taking on positions on controversial political views. So last fall, September 2016, in New Jersey, they voted to make it a welcoming city. Here we are 1 year later, and this is the headlines. A Muslim refugee is facing multiple sexual assaults charges after he tried to kiss and fondle 4 girls between the ages of 7 and 12 in New Hampshire, from a town that just over a year ago became a welcoming city. Now, in another city where they turned it down, one of the aldermen says that she was against the city joining the program, Welcoming City program, that's a national organization, because she thinks that the city should first help those who are currently homeless and unemployed. I share her thoughts. I think it's very wise. I think we have too many people we need to help find jobs and homes that are here already. We would have to devote time and staff to it. There are churches that help refugees, but I don't think the city should be involved. And that also is very wise counsel, because if you do any research, millions upon millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars go to Catholic Charities, Lutheran services. The more refugees that they bring in, the more money they make. So I'm just asking, take a look at this. And I'd be happy to give you some of the research that's out there. Lastly, about the town that just became a welcoming city a year ago, and now they just had an arrest of a refugee funneling women. How many little girls across America can now say, "Me too," because their own government allowed refugees loose in their community? Thank you.
Any further, anyone else wish to speak on the ordinance? Okay, the ordinance on the table is for discussion. Chair will entertain a motion.
If we're discussing, first I would like to point out the fact that Governor Bruce Rauner signed the Trust Act on August 28th in Illinois that essentially makes Illinois a sanctuary state. So, why don't we need to welcome people? This is as much, it's almost the same as all of our sister city programs, where we say we're partnering with these sister cities because we want to have a connection with them, but we don't want to have a connection with the people that live in our own city. We have a list here of businesses, organizations that have signed on. We're not asking for any money. We're not asking for we're not even asking for signage. If there were to be signage, we would find a way to pay for it. We wouldn't ask for the mayor to pay for it or the city to pay for it. What we're trying to establish here is that we are a community that embraces the people that live here. 2 out of every 3 small businesses are opened by immigrants. As was pointed out, the mayor is the son of an immigrant. My great-grandfather came to this country in 1906 on one side of my family. So what we're trying to do here isn't trying to be invasive or shove something in anyone's faces or be offensive. This is supposed to be a friendly, welcoming, we all want you, we want your help, and we want you to be here. This isn't supposed to be some of the things that it is portrayed as. And one news story, I heard WAND actually did an excellent story explaining it tonight. Rockford is currently working on this as well. Carbondale has already passed this as a ordinance, not a resolution. So if there needs to be more research done, fine. But to say that refugees or immigrants that come to this country are responsible only for criminal acts is offensive, is disgusting, and that is a kind of hate. That is the kind of hate that we cannot have in this city.
But a lady from Springfield got up and
If I could.
she got
Mr. Mayor.
She got hate for disagreeing.
It's not the way it works.
Mr. Mayor.
I think, there's a lot of emotion in the room, which is, I always feel that's good. It's good to have passion, love for the city, which we all do. I'm a son of an immigrant that was brought out. The difference back then than today is he had to have a sponsor. So he had a sponsor to come into the United States. And the reason for that is because you would not be a detriment to the economy. But we've gone away from that moral fabric of America. But what's important is that we all live as one. And I think that's what we're missing the point. I think what was brought out about the anti-hate, that's what we had established just about a month or so ago in a resolution. And that's what I like to focus on, the anti-violence and the anti-hatred resolution. We've already done this. And it encompasses everybody. So if you're not abiding by the law, then you're not going to be welcome in Springfield. But if you abide by the law, and I mean the laws of Springfield, Chief can speak to that, because we're not going to arrest immigrants with regards to deportation, anything of that nature. So there is no fear there. UIS is a perfect example. We have living examples in Juan Huerta. He came here when he was 16. Now he's the Director of Community Relations. And as pointed out, the sister city relationships, they are strong. So what we try to do each and every day, even with the aldermen, we try to stay together as much as possible. But with the anti-violence, I'm just going to read these parts because I think this says it all. We've already passed this, and we're the home of Abraham Lincoln. It goes from there, and it says, whereas today we join the efforts across our community and this great country to oppose hate, violence by strongly asserting that every person has the right to go about his or her business without fear or intimidation or harassment, regardless of a religious affiliation, ethnicity, race, gender, or sexual identity. And then it goes further. And whereas the people of the city of Springfield will stand together in opposing manifestations of hate and acts of intolerance committed against those who live, work, or visit in this community. And whereas Springfield will be a beacon for the inclusion, tolerance, and respect for all. And we will work in partnership to create stronger cultures of kindness and compassion throughout our community. So it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant, it doesn't matter if you're someone coming in a transplant to Springfield, a homeless person, or regular resident, you're all accepted. That's what Springfield stands for. And we've already passed the resolution before, the anti-violence one, so I think that's something that has to be considered. Because the last thing we want to do is divide our community. We need to bring it together. I think we're moving in that right direction. That's why we did the anti-violence, anti-hatred resolution, which I think most of the aldermen, if not all the aldermen, supported, and they all supported it. They co-sponsored it.
Alderman Hanauer.
Thanks, Chairman. One of the things that concerns me about this particular one, number one, is that we did it with the anti-hate. And I think that looking at the anti-hate, that's what a lot of it was, as the mayor pointed out. So to me, this is a little bit redundant. The second part of it is checking into with our members of Congress and their staff. There's a little concern that this potentially could be considered a situation where it could cost us federal funds.
It's not
I'm just
sanctuary.
telling you, I've done
It's not sanctuary.
we've done the research,
It's wrong.
and so you know, somewhat like the sanctuary city type deal. And I cannot, I will just tell you right now, because I supported the hate one 100%, still do. I think that says what we're the same thing we're talking here. But I cannot vote for a resolution or anything where there's even a tiny iota that we could potentially lose federal funds because of, at that point, railroad relocation's shot, highway funds shot. There's so much that we rely on from the federal government, even though we would like to get a lot more from the federal government if they're listening. But to me, it's a concern, and so just wanted to point that out.
That's incorrect.
Alderman DeCenzo?
That's incorrect. The welcoming city has nothing to do with federal funding. It has nothing to do with, it is merely a designation. That's all it is.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we can't act out of fear. We have to do what we believe in our hearts. And in my heart, that's why the resolution that moves forward is the anti-violence and anti-hatred. We have done that. And so if it makes people, we have the signs up that says, welcome to Springfield. I mean, we don't want to divide our community. We want to be as one, and we're moving forward in that direction. So that's why no hate's going to be tolerated. It's going to be enforced by, the law with regards to that. So, but we cannot act out of fear. If we're afraid of, funds being cut, if, that's how people strong arm you. So we should act what's right's right. And that's all that I need to say.
Thank you. Any further alderman wish to say anything at this moment? Ms. Alice, do you have to come to the podium?
I'm Alice Ramey, and I think my family is the oldest family in here because the first one that came across the country in 1776 was my great-great-great-great-grandpa, okay? Plus my family, my great-aunt came through Ellis Island, and I believe the mayor's father knew what it was like. They made a check, they gave you physical checks, they had to have a sponsor, they had to make sure that they did not fall on public aid or whatever you want to call it back in those days, okay? I do believe in the welcome city to a degree. And the degree is that all these people that are back here are from different countries, different religions, different formats, okay? Huh?
Some are, some aren't.
It doesn't matter. You're all here. Anyway, for this, okay? I like the sign that says "You welcome to Springfield." I also like the sign that Abraham Lincoln's there, one of the greatest statesmen of the presidents. I also understand that people do not understand diversified, which is what we have here in this room tonight. I do. I live by one of the roughest areas in town, in Springfield. I understand that we're going to work on it, but I like the welcome city concept. Not particularly ready for it, but I'm welcoming it, okay? I worked on the hate campaign. I know what that's like. I worked on the other campaign for violence against teenagers and everything else. But I think it's time that we look at each and everyone's heart and their soul of what they want to live in. They left their homeland that they had born and raised for a period of time to come here to have a better life. Now, are they going to accept what our rules and regulations are to maintain what they want and their soul? That's all I got to say, because I think it's time that we bring this city together and make it a city that everybody can be proud of, just not me or you or anybody else that can be proud of. And I know that they have to follow the law because I had two judges in my family and a couple of lawyers, and 2 police officers. So you know, me being the way I am, I always got in trouble, one way or the other. But I do believe in this city. I love this city. And I love my neighborhood, which I try to keep fit for everybody to come and have fun. I don't want someone to destroy it because they weren't welcome, no matter who they are and what race they are, what religion they are, I don't care. Because if they treat me with respect, I'm going to treat them with respect and welcome them in my home. Until they cross that line, they're not welcome. Do you understand? Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman McMillan.
This is a great nation, and I think I'm the only one on the horseshoe that was born overseas. And 11 of my 12 brothers and sisters were born in 4 different countries. We have an incredible melting pot nation, melting pot state, and melting pot capital city. We are the destination for all from around the state of Illinois. We're the destination for many university students that come to our medical school and UIS. We are also the destination for hundreds of thousands of foreign tourists that come to Springfield. I think this is a meaningful ordinance. I would have more comfort with it if we also inserted the words, we're a welcoming city consistent with the rule of law, because I think we all believe in the rule of law also. And I think that would put those that are concerned about some of the some of the misunderstood premises of this ordinance would put them at ease, because I think the intention is all positive here, but I do think we are a nation under the law, and we have to enforce the law when the occasion is appropriate. So that's my opinion, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Okay, Alderman Turner.
Some things go without saying, and it goes without saying that we are a nation and a country of laws, and we expect everybody to follow the law. And we've had numerous civil rights laws that have been passed over decades, and we're in 2017, and we still find ourselves in a terrible place. On August the 15th, I brought a resolution stating the city of Springfield's strong support of civil rights and opposition to racism and discrimination of all kinds. And it was passed. I asked my fellow aldermen to join with me as a co-sponsor, and they did, and it was passed. And yet and still, a little over a month later, we had people stand in this same chamber and say some of the most stereotypical and hateful things I've heard. So I guess that, and then we had an alderman say that we should change the language to say that we are a welcoming city under the laws that we expect people to follow. So I guess that says to me, and I think that I can speak to this better and more so than anybody else around this horseshoe, because this is my life. I've lived it for 63 years. But no matter what we do, we can't legislate how people feel. We can't legislate how people think. We can't make anyone do anything other than follow the law. So while I support the concept and I understand what Alderman DeCenso is trying to do, I saw what happened tonight after we passed the resolution a month ago. So unfortunately, I think that we are, our country, our city is at a place where we really have to start working on each other, and we have to do something about the way people think and feel. And I don't know what you do about that. I know that a piece of paper can't change it, unfortunately.
Alderman Senor.
I think I sit in a very unique position because as we speak, I have a son that's in England, and I hope and pray that every night he's accepted, because he had to fill out the proper paperwork. He had to apply for a visa and be accepted. He had to get his passport, and the checks you go through with a passport, everyone knows that. But and I echo the sentiments that Alderman Turner has put out there. You know, if we put something on a piece of paper, how much weight is it going to cover versus how we act every day in our everyday walk? Do we point out the differences of people, or do we accept them when we see them? I have the privilege of working in the same building with Mr. Potter, and I don't look at him as an immigrant, but I look at him as a fellow worker. I know a couple of the people that have sponsored the ordinance, and I mean the resolution, and it's tearing me up because I don't want to point out somebody's difference when I'm supposed to be accepting them as they are when I see them every day. So that's where the conflict comes from me. I don't want to point out that you're an immigrant, but I'm supposed to accept you as you are when you come. So that's one of the problems that I have, trying to support the resolution, because if I'm pointing out your difference, then I'm not accepting you as who you are.
But that's what this resolution is asking you to do. It's asking everyone to
And
just.
that goes back to Alderman Turner's thing that she passed, and that's why, you know, are we being redundant in what we're doing here tonight? Because now we're actually pointing out a specific, and I didn't want to get there, but we're actually pointing out a specific group of people that we're trying to target, that this is targeting, whereas the one that was passed in August was for everyone that lives in the city of Springfield. We're supposed to be accepting of.
Any further comments? Alderman Hanauer.
I make a motion we table this until we can come up with either some different language, and we can clear up the federal fund issue.
Second.
Motion and a second to table the resolution. Is there any discussion? Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the table, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nay.
Hey,
No.
call for a roll call vote.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Alderman Redpath.
Aye.
Alderman Senor.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
I don't, just from the discussion tonight and from conversations I've had with other aldermen, I just don't see 6 votes here. So I think it would be foolhardy to move it forward and then have it to fail. Whereas if it were tabled, there's an opportunity to bring it back. So I guess I'm explaining. You understand what you understand what I'm saying. It just doesn't make any sense to move something forward if you don't think it's gonna pass. Whereas if you table it, you have an opportunity to bring it back.
So Alderman Turner, was that the?
Oh, so I didn't need to vote for this. Yes.
Yes.
You
Alderman
can just figure
Fulgenzi.
that out.
Alderman Proctor.
Quick question, so for table, is that remains in committee? Or?
It's tabled.
So it's just stay, we're not withdrawing, it stays in committee. So for further discussion later, okay. Aye, to keep it in committee.
Alderman DeSenso.
I'm voting no not to table it because I would like to move forward with it. So that's why I'm voting no.
Alderman McMahon.
I'm voting no because it would have been better to hold in committee, because to table an ordinance means it takes a super majority to take it out of committee so that only 4 aldermen can control the outcome and kill this. So I think that was the wrong kind of a motion, and I'm a strong no.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
Alderman Donlin.
No.
Alderman Hanauer.
Aye.
7 ayes and 3 noes. The motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, next ordinance on the agenda, please.
2017-490, an ordinance to increase the number of Class D liquor licenses by 1 for Partner Group, LLC, DBA, MJ's Fish and Chicken Express, located at 716 East Enos Avenue.
Motion for consent.
Motion and a second for consent. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Who was the second?
Who was the second?
Name one.
Thank you.
Was this the old, where is this?
Alderman Hanauer.
I'm sorry.
This is,
All right, go ahead.
Build Susie.
You build Suzy Q's?
it's
Oh,
also.
sweet.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor
I
of
have my hand
the
up.
ordinance of the consent
Hold
agenda?
on.
I'm sorry, Alderman Turner, sorry to hear.
I did want to,
Alderman Turner.
yeah, I see that Jerome and Margaret Taylor are here. They're the owners of the establishment. And this was one that we passed where we provided TIF funding. And there was a lot of discussion about that vote. And I just want to commend them for what they've done with that building and that